Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We have Beau's daddy here, and then our lovely co-host is eating right now.
He's always eating.
He's always eating. He did not want to wait for the video to finish. So in this video, we're just going to talk about the birth story and how things went. It was crazy. Okay, so midnight, we start the side attack, and that was just a little pill that I had to swallow to start to soften the cervix and whatnot. And I don't know if it was like a side effect or whatever, but like 30 minutes after the side attack had been in my system, I got some terrible heartburn. It was really, really bad. But it went away like maybe 30 minutes to an hour after I started like feeling it or whatnot. So from that time, we had from midnight until shift change before Pitocin was going to be started. And that was like our time to like rest before everything started like kicking in. So Beau's daddy definitely got his sleep. I couldn't sleep. I was just kind of taking naps here and there, but I was just like really restless and just,
I feel like it was more nerves than anything.
yeah, like nervous and anxious about like what was about to happen.
I got my little sleep while I could because I knew what was coming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So then shift change happens, and we had a really, really great nurse. Her name is Megan. She was really, really awesome throughout the whole process. Yeah. So we get the Pitocin started maybe around 8 that morning. Mm-hmm. And like Buddy. Okay. So
got
Pitocin started around 8, and I want to say they start at 6, and then every 30 minutes they bump you up to. Don't quote me. I'm not a labor nurse, so I don't really know. But right?
Yeah.
Something like that. So
one. I think we started off with 2, and then they felt like it was a little bit too much, so we started gradually going up 1. So,
yeah.
Because
at some point, like the Pitocin had kicked in, and like my body was producing the oxytocin as well, so they were just like going, I guess, too close together because Friend was not happy. He was having late D cells. And they don't really like for late D cells to happen because it's like a sign that the baby isn't tolerating labor that well.
Right.
So at one point we stopped going up and I think we just kept it whatever that number was, and he still wasn't having a good time, so we turned it down. And then my doctor came in and she checked me, and I think at that point I was at 3 to 4.
I think you were like 4, almost a stretchy 5, somewhere up in there.
Mm-hmm. Because this was at like maybe 12 or so, maybe 12 or 1 o'clock. My doctor came in, she checked me, we broke my water, and because they couldn't really monitor the contractions that well with the belly monitors, they had to put in an IUPC, and I think that stands for intrauterine placement catheter. I don't know, but we put the IUPC in, and then they were able to see like how strong my contractions were, like how close together they really were, like all of the contractions. So
I could actually look on the monitor and like kind of see when a contraction was about to start. So it was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. And the contractions, they're kind of weird. Like don't you? They didn't really feel like period cramps like a lot of people say they do. And mine weren't my whole belly. Like, it was just one part that was just terrible, awful. Mm-hmm. It was like the lower part of my belly in like one spot. And come to find out, that was because of his head. He was trying to come down at an angle. So I guess he was like trying to come down this way. Yeah. And wherever that pressure pain was, that was like the rest of his big old head, like trying to, I guess, squeeze through my cervix, and it just was not happening.
His head was that big. At the time, it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't a big head baby.
I guess not, but my body felt like it was a big head baby. So at that point, it had been maybe close to, because it was was it traumatizing? Yeah, so at that point, fast forwarding on, we had to do a whole bunch of position changes, because every time he would drop, we'd have to do something pretty. Every time his heart rate would drop, we'd have to do some changes really quickly to make sure that he was going to recover really well. And he was fine with recovering. He would just drop so low. Yeah. But sometimes it would take him a minute to finally come back up, and afterwards he would be just fine. So fast forward to later on in the afternoon, it's almost a shift change. And at that point, my body was so tired because the contractions were stacking on top of each other. Like one would start, go halfway down, another one would come, would go down a little bit, and then another one would come. And my body just was like, okay,
yeah,
time out, coach.
Before she could even rest off the first contraction, there was another one starting right on top of it. So, I mean, it's kind of hard to watch, you know, your significant other go through that, and there's not really much you can do about it. Even though I was doing counter pressures and all the other things, but I mean, those contractions were no joke. Yeah. So because the contractions were like waving so close together, I didn't really want to, but I talked to Isaac, and then I was on the phone with my mom also, and I was like, I know I can do this naturally. I can finish it out, but the nurse in me was like, I've seen a lot of deliveries where the moms have not rested and their labor stalls, or it goes longer than it possibly could have because they're stressed or they're tense or they're just tired. And at that point, I was like, my baby isn't doing too well with these contractions, number one. Number two, I can't rest between the contractions. So if I can't rest, I'm not going to progress like I need to. I'm not going to dilate that quick. So that's when we made the decision to go ahead and get an epidural. Mm-hmm. And she was 7 centimeters dilated at this point.
Mm-hmm. And this was, like right almost at shift change. Mm-hmm. So I didn't really want to. And sometimes I still kind of like beat myself up about it. Like, oh, if I just would have stuck it out, I probably could have blah, 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 blah. No. But looking back, I think that was the best decision to make, because if I wouldn't have gotten the epidural, I feel like we would have ended up having to get a C-section. All right. So we got the epidural put in, and the placement was fine. I didn't have any pain with the epidural getting put in. No, I didn't. I didn't have any pain at all. But for some reason, after the epidural got put in, it didn't reach where my contractions were. My legs were numb up to my hips, but I could still feel all the contractions. And I wasn't upset. I was just worried, because I was like, I don't want to have to get stuck again, number one. Number two, they had me lay flat on my back for the epidural to work, because they said it works from the bottom up. So you have to lay flat for it to kind of creep up to where your contractions are and whatnot. Yeah. But mine stopped right under where my contractions were. So I was like, look, y'all gonna need to call the CRNA back in here, because it's not working. I don't want to get stuck again though. Yeah. So if there's something else that I can get until it starts to finally kick back up to where it needs to go, but I need that like ASAP. So the CRNA came in and she gave me a bolus of something. I don't even know what that was, but it was the most beautiful thing. That bolus, my God, it was amazing. From that point on, she slept like a baby. Slept great. Could not feel a thing. No. My leg had fallen off the bed at some point, and I felt like some sensation. I don't know what it was, but I was like, yeah, my leg is down. Yep. I can't get it back up. Yeah. So after the bolus, it was smooth sailing. And that was after shift change that happened, because my night nurse, Kristen, she was trying to do all the things as well to try and help me get more comfortable. So after the bolus, everything was fine. Couldn't feel literally a thing. But then that's when he started to have more late D cells. And come to find out, that was because I was progressing so quickly. Beau. So at that point, the contractions were still rolling in. I couldn't feel them, so I didn't care. And that was finally when I was able to like get some sleep. But it seemed like every time I would doze off, the nurses would come in because guess what? More late D cells. He wasn't having it. Come to find out, that was because I was progressing so quickly, he couldn't really have time to recover, I guess, from me progressing so quickly. And he was, I guess, dropping down lower into the cervix. So my nurse checked me. I was an 8. And then we did a position change. Maybe an hour later or so, she checked me again because guess what? More late D cells. I was at a 9 at that point. And they had also called the doctor because I think they knew like that I knew what was going on. And at that point I was like, okay, because I saw his heart rate drop once and it dropped to 46. And that is very, very low. I mean, that's low for an adult. So, that's super low for a baby. And at that point, I was like, oh, they're going to take me for a C-section. I know it. I already have my epidural. He dropped too low. They're not going to like that. So literally right after that, my nurse came in. A couple nurses came in, actually. My doctor came in. The whole crew was in. And she was like, my doctor was like, what did she say?
She was like, McKinley, I don't like what this baby's doing, but we're going to try it. But if anything's happening, we're going straight to the ER. Yeah,
she was like, because I don't play about that. And I was like, yeah, I know, I get it. So they had checked me and I went from like a 9 to 10 in like
no time. Yeah.
So they got the delivery table set up. They put me in the stirrups and whatnot. And they're like, we're going to do a practice push and we need to get this baby out. So they had gotten a vacuum just in case, like they needed to pull them one out. But we did a set of practice pushes. So you do 3 pushes per contraction. So we did a practice push, and I guess I moved him way out because when the next contraction came, another just like one contraction, and I pushed him out. So he was out. I pushed for maybe 6 minutes total, and
we tried on the larger contractions, but she didn't like how his heart rate was dropping. So we ended up going with the smaller contractions, and then that's when she delivered on the smaller contractions.
Yeah. So we did a practice one, and then we had to wait a couple of contractions in between for like one to not come up as much. So he came out on that one. And turns out he was having these late D cells because he had a double nuchal tight and a hand presentation. And that's just like his umbilical cord was wrapped around his neck twice and he had his hand by his face like this.
Yeah.
So all the things that were going on, my poor baby was like, hey, help me. I can't breathe. I'm getting strangled in here. So after that happened, he came out. He didn't really want to cry at first, but... we kind of got him.
Yeah.
He kind of whined a little bit, and then they took him over to the table. We did like maybe 2.5, 3 minutes of delayed cord clamping because his cord was so stringy and his cord was so stringy and thin, I guess from being wrapped around his neck, it wasn't really...
Yeah, it was done.
Yeah, it was done, son.
It was done.
So we did delayed cord clamping, then they took him over to the warmer, cleaned him up and everything, did his vitamin K, his Hep B, and then his eye ointment. He didn't even cry with the shots. He was just like chilling. But they said he was over there like smacking his lips because he was ready to eat. He still does that to this day. When he's ready to eat, he'll just
He
until
gonna let you know, and then he gonna fuss until you hurry up. So.
So after that, we did our skin to skin. He ate really good. I think he ate for maybe 15 minutes his first time eating, but he was just super duper sleepy. And that was pretty much our birth story. I wouldn't say it was traumatic because it wasn't. I had a small tear that my doctor stitched up. It really wasn't nothing to it.
No, it wasn't as bad. The main thing was those contractions. You know, going through all of that. Counter pressures and positioning, and I didn't realize. I feel sorry for our nurses because we
ran them to death.
We really worked them.
They got their steps in. It was just a lot going on.
I was in there sweating trying to help with counter pressures. I can only imagine how they were going with all the adjustments and making sure she was good. And
picking my legs up dead weight because I literally could not help them. At all.
So,
Other than that, I feel like maybe my next pregnancy years from now, I don't know. We may try and do it naturally. We may not. The epidural, I'm not mad at it. It was pretty great. I feel like, no, for real. I feel like if I would have went into labor naturally, I could have done it because Pitocin strengthens those contractions like maybe 10 times as painful as, I don't know, I haven't had a natural birth. I haven't felt any contractions that weren't Pitocin induced. But I really feel like next time I want to see what happens without having an induction to just like kind of compare the two. So, yeah.
I'm off for the epidural, so yeah.
He's off for the epidural because he didn't have to do any more counter pressure at that point.
Yeah. That's a lot of work.
The whole thing's a lot
I'm
of
not
work.
even the one pushing, so that's a lot of work.
But that is the birth story of sweet baby Beau.
A little fussy 10-pound boy now.
Now 10 pounds, yeah. So, that is it for this video. Like, comment, subscribe. And say we'll see you next time. You say see you later. Yeah, see you later. Okay, bye.
Bye.